Okay, student, last time we solved some basic concepts of the efficiency. We also discussed the formula for power, the SI unit of power, and we also discussed the complete energy flow diagram in the concept of the nuclear power plant. And today we start with some basic concepts of the source of energies, right? You know that we can generate electricity, we can transform energy from one form to another. So there are multiple ways, right? But uh, we are not going to write all the things at the same time because we only need to discuss about few resources, that what are the resources that help us to convert one form of energy into another. Mostly are related to the electricity because we are using different sources to generate electricity or to generate mechanical energy. Okay, so today we have to start with the concept of the sources of energies, and basically there are two different categories for the sources of energies. The first one is known as renewable energy, and the second one is known as non-renewable energy. And by the name of renewable, you can easily understand that which can, just like in the normal daily life example, we use the concept of recycle things, like recycle the paper, recycle the cups, and like other things. So same goes with the concept of renewable energy. Renewable energy means that these are the type of energy or the sources of energy which can be derived from natural sources, right? So basically, if we talk about the concept of renewable energy, so basically it is a source of energy, we can say that, which can be derived from natural sources. And these type of sources are like unlimited because we are not able to count that source. Like if we take the example of the sunlight, so basically sunlight give us two types of energy. One is in the form of thermal or radiation, and second one in the form of light. So basically two type of or two sources of energy we are getting on daily basis from the sun, and that source is like unlimited. We are not able to count that source of energy or the quantity of energy that we are getting from sun, because we are getting that energy around 10 to 12 hours in a day on daily basis. So that is like from the natural source. That is the natural source, we are not able to control that one, and that is like unlimited for us, because there is no specific amount that we are getting from the sun, or we have a fixed value that we calculated from the energy of the sun that we are getting on daily basis. So in simple, if we take the example of the sun, so the energy we are getting from the sun is renewable energy because that is the natural source of energy. So the energy derived from the natural sources that replenished at a higher rate.
And what are the examples of renewable
Okay,
energy?
basically, yes. Basically, we just first talk about the categories. We write one or two example. Then we also discuss each source individually, because some sources are very included in your syllabus in very detailed. So we have to discuss the complete detail of that topic. Like if one example, we take the example of sun, the second is the wind energy, right? The air which is flowing continuously in the atmosphere. So that is also renewable energy, right? So we can use
Wait,
that
repeat
air
hydro
molecules.
wind energy.
Yes.
I was talking
So
to my dad.
yes, and there are some other example like fossil fuels, because fossil fuels we are getting
So those are
from
non-renewable, right?
basically
Fossil fuels.
fossil fuel in the sense the energy that we are getting from the underground sources, because we are getting the thermal energy if we start digging into the
Oh, it's
depth of the
renewable
earth.
over the long term, like
Yes,
millions of years. Okay,
yes.
okay, okay.
So that thermal energy, because we also discussed the concept of geothermal energy. So geothermal is basically related to the structure of the earth. When we start digging into the depth of the earth, so we will getting a lot of amount of heat from there, and we use that thermal energy. We just use the pipe underground, and when water passes from that, so due to the high temperature under the surface of the earth, because we know at the center of the earth we consider there is a core, and the temperature of core is very much high, so we use that amount of heat energy also to make the steam in water, right? So we will also discuss all the concepts in very much detail, because these type of sources like geothermal, hydroelectric, and all the other type of sources in very detail, right?
All right.
So only for the timing we are only talking about the category, because we only need to study about two categories, and the second category is known as non-renewable energy.
Wait, so sir, in the exam, if it were to ask us about like example, like if it gives like a choice, take if take if the following energy, take if
Hmm.
the following energy provider is renewable or non-renewable. Would
Yes.
fossil fuels be renewable or non-renewable?
Fossil fuels
Fossil
are not
fuels.
renewable.
Basically, that are non-renewable, but basically the concept of that is we are taking from the geothermal energy. So that's why I'm not writing the sources in very much detail, because we have to discuss that concept with each topic in detail. The main purpose of taking that example is related to geothermal. I mistakenly wrote call that the fossil fuel example. So if we take the some example of renewable energy, so first one is the solar energy, very common. Then we are having wind energy,
Yeah, yeah.
then geothermal, that is heat of the earth, biomass, that is the plant materials, and there are different temperatures, like at the seaside the temperature or the temperature of the air above the sea is something different, and on the land surface the air above that surface is, the temperature of that air molecules is different from the surface of that above the sea level. So basically that works on the concept of temperature difference. So there are multiple ways to use or to write different concepts of renewable energy, right?
Wait, sir, what is biomass an energy source or something? A type of
Yes,
energy?
it is like renewable energy, because it is not like directly source. We use them with after some process, just like the nuclear is also natural, right? But we have to set up all plant, because nuclear energy is also like a renewable energy, right? Because there are millions and unlimited number of atoms there, so we use multiple atoms to generate
Oh wait, is it like the energy you get from eating?
uh, yes. And
Okay,
further if
okay.
you want to write, we take the example of hydropower also, right? That is known as also the waveform. In the waveform, so if you write the waveform in the simple words, so that is hydropower, that is due to the flow of water waves. Okay, if we talk about the sources which are non-renewable, or the source of energies which are non. Okay, so basically we are talking about the non-renewable energy source also. So in this category, we are using the sources which are not like available in the natural form, right? And we are not able to replace them because that are in limited quantity, we can say that. Like if we take the concept of the electricity, so basically electricity is not like the natural. We actually generate electricity from some other source, so that is in a limited amount. So we have to generate electricity on daily basis according to the consumption, right? So that is non-renewable energy. Okay.
All right.
So they are not like the ready-made form of energy or ready-made source of energy. We have to just make some different process to make that specific form of energy or to transform energy from some other type, right? And now we are able to write the examples also. So basically we can take the example of a coal, right? You know that coal is not like the naturally available. We use the wood and then make convert into the coal form, and then we use that coal to make a thermal energy, right?
Wait, so what about charcoal? The one you get from wood?
Yes, basically we are actually driving from something, right? And those are
Yeah.
like the limited one, because if we are using coal on the daily basis, because trees and the wood are not going to be produced naturally, right? We have to follow the complete procedure to make the coal, so that are not like naturally available. Just like the solar energy is naturally available anytime on the daytime. So no one, or like we are not making that energy that is naturally available. But for the coal, we have to make that coal by a certain process. So that's why that is in the category of non-renewable energy, right? Same goes
Uh-huh.
with the natural gas, because natural gas is also not like freely available everywhere. We have to make again a complete process. We are using CNG, compressed natural gas, in the cars also, in vehicles also, in the replacement of the diesel or the petrol. So oils are also not renewable energy, right? And renewable energies are like limited one. If you are not continue the process of producing that sources, so you will be running out from that specific type of renewable or non-renewable energy source, right? And now there are multiple types and multiple categories of renewable and non-renewable, but in your syllabus there are some specifically name of the sources included, and you need to know about each and everything about that source. The first one, the very common that we write in the renewable column, is the solar one. So solar is the most important and the most basic example of the renewable energy. And you already know about the solar energy, right? That is naturally available. We are getting that energy from the sun. So that is not a very complicated form or like the difficult example. Okay. And now we have to discuss that how we are using solar energy and to transform or to use that solar energy in our daily life process. So the very basic common example of solar energy that we are using solar energy in our daily life is the example of solar plates, right? We are using solar plates or solar panels, just like that solar plate given in your calculator also. So that actually works on the concept of light energy, right? So basically light is going to be converted into electricity. Okay. So from solar energy, basically energy transfers in the form of radiation or thermal energy. So energy transferred from the sun by the means of radiation. We are also going to discuss that transfer of energy or the method of transfer of energy in the next section, that of thermal physics. So don't worry about this. What is the concept of radiation? Basically we are using the concept of radiation in the sense because sun is far away from the earth and there is a space or there is a vacuum between earth and the sun, right? So there is no direct medium between the sun and earth. So basically radiation is the process, or by mean of radiation we are talking about the concept that radiation is the process of transfer of energy without any specific medium, right? So there is no medium required for radiation. Radiation can be transferred without any medium. Okay. So that's why we are using the term of radiation. When we start the concept of thermal physics, so in thermal physics, there is a complete detail of the process of radiation. Okay. And we are using that energy in the solar panels. And what is the purpose of solar panel and the solar cells? You already know that we have to convert that light energy into the electrical energy, right? So we are taking light energy and that light energy will convert into the electrical energy. So this is the most common and the basic example or a very daily life example that we already observe in our natural daily life. Okay. And we already discussed that solar is the renewable energy source, right? And further, if we talk about some important points related to the solar energy, so the very first important thing is it is renewable. And any other point that you want to add for solar energy?
Uh,
Photovoltaic cells. That
what
Uh,
cells?
Solar cells.
photovoltaic.
Photo.
Yeah. They do come in the past papers.
Yes. But we also discussed that concept in the section of electricity, right? For the time being, we are just only talking about some the theoretical concept related to the energy, because radiation is also included in the thermal section, right? So we will discuss that topic in detail over there. And the photovoltaic cell and the other type of cells are also included. But you know that there is a
Okay.
syllabus update there. So the concept of electronics is now removed. So we don't need to discuss that components in very much detail, right?
Do we still need to know the name?
No, basically that is now not important. Only the concept of diode is important. So that's why it is not compulsory for the,
Okay.
right? And if we want to talk about some disadvantage, so any disadvantage of using the solar?
The cells die out quick, so they need to be like replaced.
Okay. And it is only available for the limited time, right? Like if we are taking the concept
Yeah.
of 24 hours, so it is only available around 10 to 12 hours, or might be less than 12 or 10 hours, because if there is a cloudy conditions there, so we are not able to use that energy, right? So that is the main disadvantage. And the second thing is, if we have to generate a lot of amount of electricity, so we need a large scale or a very large setup, right? So basically, if we want to write some disadvantages, because from the start we are talking about the advantages, right? That we can make electricity, it is like naturally available, it is unlimited, we can use like for the lifetime. So these are the advantages. But if we talk about the advantages, so in advantages, that the first thing is we required a very large setup, or we have to generate electricity or a very huge amount of electricity, so you need to work on a very large scale, right?
Yeah,
And in your past paper you will also find a question which is related to
it
the,
requires money, like a lot of money,
it also,
cost.
it is costly because it requires maintenance time to time, and
Yeah,
also require a very large area, right? So
wait,
it
so can we say high cost as like one of the disadvantages?
so it's
Nice.
also costly, and we also required maintenance. And any other disadvantage that is in your mind? And you know that if we talk about the whole earth surface, so sunlight is not available everywhere. Like if we take the example of our country, of our city, so you can observe that it is very natural and very normal. But those area like the north pole, when sunlight is not available, so that is also like a disadvantage in the sense that is, it is not available equally for all part of the earth, right? So on that place, we have to use some alternate method to generate electricity or to use electricity, right? So we will discuss further in the questions also, because in questions you will get the questions about these concepts, how they are asking the question related to the solar, because we already about know about the basic concept, basic idea, so that is not much very difficult. And if we talk about another source of energy, so the next source of energy that is included in your syllabus is fossil fuels. And in the example of the fossil fuels, we have to talk about the coal, the natural gas, and basically fossil fuels are also formed from the remains of the plant and animal, right? So basically, if we talk about their basic concept, so fossil fuels can be formed,
Under high pressure over millions of years.
yes,
Yeah.
from the remain of plants and animals.
Oh, yeah, right.
So this is the basic natural cause for the fossil fuel, that how fossil fuels are going to be produced over there. And further, if we talk about the type of energy that is stored in the fossil fuel like coal or natural gas, so what type of energy uh, or what category of energy we are getting from fossil fuel, like mechanical energy, electrical energy, chemical energy,
Aren't we getting thermal energy
thermal energy?
by when we burn them?
Yeah,
Okay,
thermal energy.
basically if we burn them, so after we are getting thermal energy, right? But if we
Yeah.
take one step back, so basically in chemistry you already discussed about the gases, the combustion process. So basically we, this is all related to the chemical process, right? The molecules, the structure of the gases, their combinations. So it basically consists of the chemical category, right?
Wait,
Okay.
so we're getting chemical energy.
Basically we are converting chemical energy into thermal, right? If you take the example of the
Oh,
natural,
you're asking for the conversion. Okay, okay.
basically natural gas is the type of chemical energy, and we convert the
Yeah,
natural
yeah, yeah.
to some other type, right?
Okay.
Just like the sun, we discussed that energy transfer in the form of radiation, like in the thermal or in radiation form. So in fossil fuels, we are getting the chemical energy, and it is not possible without the sunlight. Okay, so sunlight also help to make these fossil fuels, right? But we are only talking about the name of the energies, that from which form to which form the energies are converting. So we are getting chemical energy, right? And that chemical energy is going to be transferred into some other form of energy, right? Just like if we are using the oil or the fuel in the car, so basically we are converting that chemical energy into mechanical. If we are using natural gas in our houses, so basically we are using to produce thermal energy, right? Okay, if we talk about some advantages and some disadvantages in general related to the fossil fuels, just like we discussed about the solar. So if we talk about the advantage, so what are the advantage of using the fossil fuel in our daily life?
I don't I don't think there are any advantages.
Okay, basically, we are using the fuel or natural gas in our daily life for transportation, right? So the one advantage, or we can say that in the sense of advantage, we can write like this, that it is readily available on daily basis, right? Because industries are working on this whole thing, and they are generating all the things on daily basis, right? So basically it is available on daily basis anytime, right? So just like if we compare with the solar, so solar energy is only available in daytime. It is not available in the night time. Okay. So then we have to use these fuels or different source of energy to generate or to make electricity. So one thing that we can write in the sense of the advantages, that it is readily available on daily basis.
Can we say that it's feasible because everybody has it? Like it's not like solar panels, like very less
Yes.
people have it.
Because for solar panel you have to make a complete setup, but we don't need to have some specific setup for the fossil fuels like coal, oil, natural gases. So that is just ready made available, right? You can just consume that, and you can just transform into another form of energy on daily basis anytime. Okay.
Okay.
And if we talk about any other advantage.
I don't know any advantages, but I know a disadvantage.
Okay, because we know many about disadvantage.
Yeah.
Usually we are taking or writing like essays on the air pollution, noise pollution,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
greenhouse gases. So basically there are mostly disadvantage, but we know that we are living in the era of technology. So we have to bear all the disadvantage also with advantages, right?
Yeah.
And
So can I
it
say
Okay.
the
is
disadvantage?
Otherwise, I don't know. Coal is not expensive.
is reliable in the sense that if you take the example of industries, right? So for industries, this source is very much important because you are using a very high power generators over there. We are using light over there and different machineries over there. So basically those are mostly working on the gases or on the fuel or different like diesel or different form of oils, right? We are using oil in machine also, right, to reduce the friction. So basically these are reliable for the large scale manufacturing process or large scale manufacturing industries or any power plant, you can say that, right?
Yeah.
And for the disadvantage, there are many disadvantage, right? But if we take some common so that is already know, everyone know about some basic disadvantage like the air pollution and the noise pollution, because when we are using this type of energy in the industry, so that will also cause the air pollution plus noise pollution, because sound will also produce from the machinery and the industry. And secondly, it also take like hundred and thousand of years for fossil fuels to form, right? Because you know that when there is a complete biological process of decomposition and all the thing, when the bodies of the animals or the plant buried under the earth's surface, so it will take time and it will convert into the fossil fuel, right?
Yeah. Can we say what you call encourages global warming? I
uh
guess
yes, you can also write the concept of global warming.
it can also produce carbon monoxide when burned. I think.
And the most important thing that the amount that we are using on the daily basis, so it will be like run out very shortly, right? Because we already
Yeah.
know the prices of all the things, like we are using fuel and we are consuming different sources of fossil fuels in our daily life on daily basis and in very high quantity, so it will run out very shortly, right? That's why it is non-renewable also. Then we are not able to produce this source of energy, because it takes a long time to generate fossil fuel, and the amount we are consuming on daily basis is very high as compared to the production of fossil fuel naturally, right? And the main
Yeah.
disadvantage that we usually encounter is when there is a shortage of the production or when the shortage of these sources are there, so their prices will all automatically increase, right?
Yeah.
So if the supply is decreasing, basically normally in Pakistan we are facing all this thing, right? So we are better know about the disadvantage. Either there is a shortage of these sources or not, price will always be high, right? And but still we are using the sources because that is our now a very common need in our daily life. So if their supply will decrease, so it will increase the cost of these sources, right?
Yeah.
And it is also a source of pollution in different forms that we already discussed, right? And you already named those gases like carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide that will produce acid rains, right? Because that is going to be add up in very high quantity in our atmosphere, and when the first rain comes out, so that will be known as the acid rain, because there are a very high amount of carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide present in our atmosphere, and with the water vapors, that is known as the acid rain, right?
Yeah.
So these are the disadvantage. And for the uses of fossil fuel, we already discussed, so we are not writing them in very much detail because you already know about them. In transport, generating electricity, in heating process. So we are using this source of energy in our daily life.
Sir, do we have to discuss hydrogen fuel cells?
No.
Okay.
And the next category that we already discussed about the energy flow diagram, which is known as nuclear fuel. Basically, by the name, you can easily identify that it is formed with the help of the nuclear reaction, which is known as fission reaction, that we also going to be discussed in the last chapter that is related to the nuclear physics section. So basically, nuclear fuel or this fuel can be generated by the process of fission reaction. Basically, fission reaction in simple word, if you want to take the example of the fission reaction, so atom bomb is the example of fission reaction, right? Because the nucleus of the atom is unstable because we are taking specific elements like uranium, and uranium is the most unstable element in the periodic table. So mostly we are using that uranium because the nucleus of that element is unstable, and we just try to bombard a neutron, or we just strike want to strike that neutron
Wait,
with
sir, what's the fuel source for stars? I
stars.
remember it's fission, right? You do fission of helium.
Yes,
Is that
because
considered nuclear fuel?
we can also consider that nuclear fuel, but on because that topic is also included in your space physics now, so we are using over there a fusion reaction or a thermal reaction. Because if you take the example of the sun, so sun is the example of fusion reaction. In fusion, we are going to combine a small nuclei to make a large one, and in fission reaction we are going to split a large one into the smaller one, right?
Yeah.
So basically, in fission reaction, when large nucleus breaks into the smaller one, so that process is known as fission reaction. But we are not talking about their definition right now because we will discuss that detail in nuclear physics section. So basically, we are using nuclear fuel in our daily life, in short, for generating electricity, right? And we are also using that for the nuclear bomb, and that is not the advantage in our daily life because we are not using nuclear bomb on daily basis. But yes, we are using electricity on daily basis. So we are using this nuclear fuel or fission reaction to generate electricity. And if we want to write some advantages, so any idea about the advantages? Because this is a rare type
Of
of.
nuclear fuel. They
Yes.
produce lots of energy. Lots of it, I think.
Okay.
That's probably incorrect IGCSE wise, but
Yes, but
yeah.
we just talk about in journal way. So basically, it will produce a high rate of thermal energy. So we can also use that thermal energy just like in the energy flow diagram. So we are using that thermal energy to produce steam, and that steam helps to run the turbine, right? So that will produce a very high amount of thermal energy. And second thing is, it will there will be no pollution, right? In the nuclear fuel we
Wait,
are not
really?
getting any type of pollution, right? Because if we take the example of industries, so basically the machineries we are using, so that machinery actually produce pollution, right? Because that are working with the same that oil or natural gases. But if we purely take the example of the nuclear fuel, so basically there is no pollution that is very harmful for our environment, so that is going to be produced from nuclear fuel. So there is no such pollution caused by the nuclear fuel. but still we know that we have to make a complete procedure, complete plant for that process to generate electricity. So those machineries are using fuel, natural gases and other things, so that will cause the pollution, right? But if we take the pure example of nuclear fuel, so there is not a cause of the pollution with the reference of nuclear fuel, right? One more advantage that it can produce electricity on a very large scale, right? So it will generate energy on a very large scale. And what about the disadvantages?
Right, so didn't you already say that?
The last
The
point,
first point. No, no, no. Yeah, didn't you already mention the first and last point together?
basically, the first point is related to the thermal energy, and second point is actually related to the electrical energy. So we can generate electricity on a very large scale with the help of nuclear fuel, right? And if you want to use that nuclear fuel for your thermal reaction or any type of reaction in which you require a very high amount of heat over there, so you can use nuclear fuel also, right? So basically it will provide you two different sources of energy, right? No, there will also be
Which
no.
I actually have a question.
Yes,
I remember when you were studying like this, like the topic of like nuclear and all of that stuff, there was radiation
yes.
chances. So isn't there like pollution still?
Basically that is the disadvantage that we have to discuss in disadvantage, that it is harmful, not in the sense of pollution, but it is harmful in the form of the radiations, right? Because gamma rays are emitting from alpha, beta. Gamma rays are coming out from the radiations or coming out from the nuclear reaction. So that is harmful for the human body, but it will not pollute your atmosphere, right?
Ah, okay, that
Not
that way.
produce carbon dioxide,
Okay,
it
okay, understood.
produce different source of gases like the greenhouse gases. So that is not the source. Nuclear fuel is not the source of these type of gases. So that's why we are not writing in disadvantage. But yes, in the sense of radiation, that is the main disadvantage of using nuclear fuel openly, right? And there is a complete history or a documentary, or you can say that the movie on this nuclear bomb or that nuclear plant that is currently available, that is named as the Oppenheimer. Basically Oppenheimer is, yes, basically that was the real story. And the scientist that was used to biograph in
Which
that.
one did you watch it?
Basically I know about the history. I didn't get the,
Ah, okay.
but if you are interested in that, so you may watch that one because that is related.
Yeah, I'll watch the movie, sure.
Yes. So basically the IQ level of that man is very much high, and he just got a PhD degree and other degrees in a very short age. So then he started working on it. And if we talk about the disadvantages, so basically the main disadvantage we are talking about the uranium. So uranium is not like available everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So uranium is not available easily, right? So we are only having limited amount of uranium. We can also use some other elements, but those elements are not able to produce a very high amount of electricity, just
Yeah.
like uranium. And the second disadvantage, that
Radiation.
radiations. And there is also a radioactive waste, right, that will also produce that radiations. Because when we start the concept of nuclear physics, so in nuclear physics there is a concept of the half life. So the remaining remains of that nuclear fuel, which is known as the radioactive waste, so that radioactive waste will remain for like hundred and thousand of year. So that is unsafe and that will produce radiations also, right? Just like you can take the example of that nuclear bomb incident on the Japan. So it will affect the human beings for a very long time, right? And also it is a very expensive, right?
Yeah,
Because
since
to
it's
set up
very
a
like rare to find.
so setting up a nuclear fuel is not a very easy task, so it is also very costly and very expensive. And we also need to follow safety precautions, because you also know about that concept, that there is a nuclear blast take place in the plant. I don't remember the name of that place, but it actually happens like in 1980s or sometime, that the power plant got uh, explode because of that safety precaution was not taken properly over there. So that will also produce uh, a very high rate of risk over there in the form of radiations also, right? And it will just expand just like the concept of atom bomb, right? So basically you can just study from your book also, or from any source on the internet, because these things are like the theoretical concept, or like the journal thing. You may also study this concept in your Pakistan study subject. And there are some
Yeah.
yes, there are some other sources that we have to study. So I am writing the name of that, and in next class if you study by yourself, so that is very good. But if you don't study, I will share the complete concept or a complete notes related to these sources of energy, because we are not writing a very much right now in the class. So you require some points to write in the exam. So for that,
Yeah.
get the PDF file. So next we have to discuss wave and tide power. That is the tidal energy due to the flow of water, right? Then we have to discuss hydroelectric, geothermal. So these are some other sources that we need to discuss, right?
Yeah.
So we
We
will
need to also discuss the like uh how do you say it? The machines that they use.
basically the concept of machinery is not very specifically
No,
included.
no, I don't know how to say it. Like for example,
Mhm.
dams and all of that for wave energy.
But yes, the example of
Yeah,
dam.
hydroelectric, sorry.
Yes, because that is a very common and very old mechanism to generate electricity, just like the concept of
Windmills for wind energy, like that.
dam.
That's what I mean.
The windmill is also a very common source that can be generated with the help of the wave, because in wave we are going to talk about air plus water also, right? Because both can flow, both are fluids. So wave and the tidal energy is for the windmill and for the propellers that we are using in water. So in next class we will start with the short review of the remaining sources of energy, and then we are able to solve the questions, right?